What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you can't tell from the title of this video, we have some unfortunate news about the Genesis. My absolute favorite part about the Genesis, and that is my wheels. My 18-inch Bazreias, my absolute favorite wheels in the world. I absolutely love these things, but if you're reading the title of this video, one of them is ruined. That's not clickbait. It's not just to get you guys in here with some fake bad news. One of them is actually ruined, but I have a solution, but then I also have a predicament that we're gonna get into all in this video. So let's get this wheel taken off the car. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Alrighty guys, so as you can see, we have the Bazreia up on the workbench here, and if you couldn't tell from that last clip, it is the driver's side rear wheel that is the culprit. Now you're probably sitting here also saying to yourself, well, they're not really ruined, they're three-piece wheels, parts are interchangeable, readily available, this should be an easy fix. That would be the case if it was an inner barrel or even an outer lip, but unfortunately, that is not the case here. Now, before we dive into the damage on the wheel, you're probably sitting here also thinking to yourself, Stan, you got a crazy amount of camber on your car, you got a super tiny inner barrel, a ginormous outer lip, and a crazy negative offset. No kidding, your wheel broke. Wrong. Dead wrong on that. There's absolutely nothing to do with the wheel specs, the lip, the barrel. Has nothing to do with camber, has nothing to do with tires, none of that. This comes down to the fact that these are super old JDM faces, and what most people don't know about these is that they're cast faces. This is not like a modern day face or wheel company that takes a piece of billet aluminum, machines it down, and that's how you get your face. These are cast faces. I know a lot of people, or I feel like a lot of people, don't realize that, but when we flip this thing around here in a second, I'll show you the casting marks, and I'll show you what is actually the machined part on these faces, because they are machined, just not machined out of a solid chunk of metal. But without further ado, let's get into the damage on the wheel. One last thing I failed to mention, because I know some people might be curious and ask, but this is an obviously 18-inch Weds Kranze Bazreia face. I've mentioned that a couple times now. It is an 18 by 13-inch wheel with a 9-inch outer lip and a 4-inch inner barrel. Just in case you were wondering, there's the answer for you. But now, let's jump into the wheel. Moving on into what you guys are finally really here for, and that is what is damaged on the face itself. Now, if you take a look at this spoke right here, we have a ginormous crack that goes along the entire side of the spoke. And then if I flip it around here, spin it around, put the wood there just so it's nice and safe. But as you can see, come along the back, and we have the crack all the way on the back side of the spoke, and it ends right there, if you can see. So pretty much the entire thickness of this spoke, I'm going to assume, is cracked straight through, and that's why I'm saying that this face is ruined, and I'm not being dramatic about it. And unfortunately, that's why I am so bummed out. So now you're probably sitting here watching this saying, if this is a three-piece wheel and three-piece wheels are supposed to be extremely strong, how did something like this happen? And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be very blunt, straightforward, and say this is due to the fact that it is an old JDM face. And what most people don't realize about JDM faces is that they are cast. It is not like a modern-day company where you're ordering a wheel, they take a chunk of metal, CNC machine it, and now you have your face. That's not the case with most, if not all, JDM wheel companies. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about, why these are cast, if you take a close look at the markings on the back of the faces. We got one right there, each one of the spokes, and then you can see it really good with the Made in Japan right there. Those are casting marks. That is not markings from a CNC machine that has gone through and cut that out. Those are from the casting process, and then they simply just machine the bolt pattern, the disc spacing, and the hub bore, and that's how you get your face. So that is why I'm saying that this is due to this being an old JDM face, because this face could be anywhere from 10, 15, 20 years old. We have no idea the history on these wheels, who the previous owner was, how many previous owners, what those people were doing. Were they thrashing these things around? Were they destroying them? Were they drifting on them, hitting curbs? We have no idea. And that, unfortunately, is the kind of like unspoken truth about JDM wheels. Everybody wants to hype them up because they look cool. And granted, I mean, if I flip this around, I own these wheels. I'm not saying that I would not purchase them again, because I bought these because this is my actual favorite face design. I love the way these look, but unfortunately, this is the exact risk I took and other people take when they buy used JDM faces. I just want to make a note that I am in no way, shape, or form hating or bashing JDM faces or JDM wheels. I love JDM wheels just as much as anybody else. Clearly, I own a set, so why would I own a set if I didn't like them? And then on top of that, I own another set. If you guys didn't know, I do have a set of 22-inch Bazreias that were previously on my Durango when it used to be on air suspension. So clearly, I'm a big fan of not only JDM wheels, but Bazreias in particular. And I actually own a third set that we will get into here in just a second. But I just want to make a note that I'm in no way, shape, or form hating or bashing JDM wheels and faces and all of that stuff. They're just as good faces. I just want to make a note saying that these are most likely cast faces, as the case with most JDM brands. And the unfortunate truth about buying all of these faces is that you have absolutely no idea what previous life and abuse that they went through. That's all I'm trying to say here. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're on the fence whether you should buy a JDM set or a new set of wheels. So I think it's time that we stop being complete Debbie Downers here and talking about the ruined Bazreia behind me, and instead get on to more positive topics, which is the solution that I said I already have for those wheels, which is right up there on the shelf behind me. And another prime example of why I'm saying that I'm not hating or bashing on JDM wheels, because clearly if I was hating on them, I wouldn't have gone ahead and purchased a complete third set of the same wheels. So I'm going to pull those down off the shelves and we're going to go over exactly why I bought those. Alrighty guys, so as you can see, we have the wheels on the ground in big dramatic drum roll reveal, and they're just Bazreias, guys. Like I said, third set, I literally meant the third set of the same exact wheels. Second set of 18s, then the third set of 22s that are at my house. But yeah, as you can see, white 18-inch face Bazreias, just like I already had. Now, you might be confused as to why I would buy quite literally the same exact wheels as I already had, especially after I had a problem with this. And it just simply comes down to like two factors. And the first one is being that these are my absolute favorite wheels. I love Bazreias. I love this face design. They're just like my absolute favorite wheels. The second one comes down to is that now that I'm just swapping out the same face as that one was, the offsets will be identical. So now, for those who don't know, Weds Kranze lips and barrels. So these are a universal Weds Kranze drilled face. I mean barrel and lip, which means that they will fit any other Weds Kranze face. So I could have got a set of Serbs, I could have got LXZs, I could have got glosses. I found a set of Serbs for sale locally that were fairly cheap. I almost bought them, but it would have changed the offset to the point where it would have meant I would have had to do like tedious suspension adjustments, and I already have the suspension on my car absolutely dialed in, so why would I go through the trouble of just slightly changing the suspension setup to fit the other face when I could just get the same face, keep the same exact spec, and just bolt it up and go. And that's basically the second reason why I just went with the same exact faces. Now, in my case, this set is a little bit special specifically to me, and that is because they are all mid-disc faces. This is a square set of faces, meaning they are all the same. I don't think I covered it already, but if I didn't, I'll do it right now. But the biggest bummer of this face getting damaged was that this is a mid-disc face. 18-inch mid-disc Bazreias seemingly are very uncommon for some reason. It took me quite a while to track down these sets of faces. So when this mid disc was the one that was ruined, that was the problem, is that I just was having a really hard time finding a set of Bazreias that included a pair of mid discs. So when this popped up and it was local to me and they were fairly cheap and they were all 4 mid disc matching faces, I was like, I'm just going to jump on them and take an opportunity. And then bonus, or at least I thought, was that they're already white. If I put this face in this wheel, you most likely won't notice that this wheel is a different shade of white than the wheels that were already on the car, or at least I don't think you would notice, because if you take these faces out of these lips, they are just a pure white color. They do look a little tinged right now, but I think that's just the reflection of the rose gold on the face, where these are just a polished lip, so there's not any color reflection on the face. So I haven't taken these faces out, taken this face out and put them next to each other to see how different the shades are, but they should be close enough where if one of these was next to one of these on the side profile of the car, I don't think you would notice that they're 2 different shades of white. Unfortunately, you might be asking yourself, well, why haven't you done that already? Because I have had these wheels for many months now, like 5+ months maybe. And the reason is that when I picked these up, they were absolutely filthy. The previous owner tried to polish them and did a really bad job. He admitted he didn't know what he was doing. So the faces were covered with leftover residue, polishing compound, stuff like that. And so when I got these things unbolted, took them out and went to start wiping them down, cleaning them, the faces just weren't in like the best of shape cosmetically. There's some chips in the powder coat, some dings, some scratches. He previously tried to powder coat them, hence why the lug nut holes are just so black on some of these versus this one where they're a little bit lighter. But yeah, that is kind of the problem that we're running into right now. But there is another problem, and that goes down to powder coating and refinishing these faces, or at least the one face to replace this face. And for that, I'm going to pull all of these out of the wheels, set them down on the workbench, and we'll take a closer look exactly at the cosmetic damage that I mentioned, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so as you can see, we got all 4 faces out of the lips and barrels and laid out on the workbench here, and we can kind of go over the cosmetic damages that I was talking about. But first, I do need to correct myself. I said the previous owner tried to powder coat them. I meant plasti dip. That is what this black inside the lug nut hole is, versus this one that isn't plasti dipped. I almost did it again. But to dive into like the cosmetic damage that I was talking about after I cleaned these wheels off and started really looking at them, is you can see that they're all sorts of nicked up, scratched, gouged up, chipped. Every single one of them has it. Like this one even has it on the inside ring of the spokes, or the face I should say. This one has a really big deep one right there, and there. This one face is probably the best one out of all of them. So if I was going to choose, well, I am choosing just one of these faces to use on that wheel, and it is this one. So if I was just to unbolt that face and swap in one of these faces, this is the one I would choose. The only real nick on it is right there and right there. I don't think that's enough for anybody to notice, or like any worse than that faces, because I mean, I have been driving on that for 1.5 years, so it has some rock chips and minor imperfections in it just from driving and being out in the world. So I don't think like this one would be any less than that one, but that does go back to, are the shades of white going to match? But like I said, I don't think that you would notice from the rear wheel to the front wheel if the faces were just a ever so slight different shade of white. And you might be saying, why don't you just take this one wheel to the shop and get it powder coated the same color those ones are? And that just unfortunately comes down to my friend who powder coated those wheels for me is just no longer doing wheel refinishing and powder coating. So I have no idea what powder was used for that face, so I can't just go to another shop and say, this is what color these are, this is what powder was used, can you match it? So I did have to take these wheels to a wheel shop because some of the hardware in these was like seized and I couldn't get it out, and the bit that I had wasn't like grabbing them correctly because these were using the Weds OEM lips, which is a triple square bit. And so I did have to have a couple of the bolts done however they did it. I didn't want to mess with and scratch up damage up the faces or anything, so I did have a shop just do that for me. But while I was there, they took a look at the faces. I told them what happened, and they were like, well, stuff like this gouge or this wheel that's really bad, he's like, that isn't actually any like serious damage. He's like, it's all cosmetic. When we strip the wheel or the face and then prep it for new powder, he's like, that should go away, no problem. So I'm not worried about the cosmetic nicks and dings in the face, especially on this one that I would be using. It would be fine. It's just a matter of me not being able to 100% guarantee a perfect color match. And at that point, if I'm taking this one face with the 3 other faces that are on the car already, to have them all powder coated so that they all match perfectly to one another, do I really want to pay to redo them white like I already had? And if I change the face color, what else face color besides like white and brushed would go with rose gold lips? Now I could just do rose gold faces, but once again, I don't know what powder was used on these lips, so I couldn't even get a color match for the faces. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, guys. And that's why I've been sitting on these faces for so many months without really having any idea what I want to do. So I think we're just going to wrap up the video here. I know for a fact that I've made this video way too long with my just non-stop talking. But I don't know. It's just been a situation that I've been replaying in my head for months now. Like I said, I've had these faces for like five months or so now, and just undecided on what I want to do with them. And then I've known about the crack in this face. It's been about a year I've known about that, but luckily I've just been monitoring it all summer, like I said, and I was able to roll around on it while I tracked down a set of the new replacement faces right here. But like I said, by the time I bought those faces, I very rarely drove the car, which is another reason why it's taken me so long to get to this point. But I did have to make this video because this is something that I wanted to get into. I think it's just like a slightly important topic that a lot of people don't really like go over, which is the problem with buying used JDM wheels that are however many years old, going through whatever previous life and abuse and who knows what. But yeah, like I said, I had to rush through this video and I had to make it today because somebody is coming by tomorrow to buy these lips and barrels right there. So I had to get this video done today. I didn't really have a plan on what I was talking about and going off on, so I was kind of just trying to wing it the whole day. And it was kind of a struggle to make this video for me, if I'm being honest with you. But to stop talking here, I need to wrap this up. I'm gonna wrap this up, but hopefully it's just a quick little insight on what might potentially happen when you're buying used JDM wheels. Something to keep in mind, something to be on the lookout for, and just be prepared for. And now I need to finally make a decision on what I want to do with this thing. I need to get that face over there swapped out for this face over here and figure out if I want to run the face as is, try and get it matched, try and get a color matched, do all the wheels completely over. I don't even know what color I'm doing on the car, to be honest with you. So that's really making the decision on wheel color and what I want to do with the wheels even harder. But I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm wrapping this up. Peace out. Catch you on the next one.